Hello, Tampa Bay fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show, your online radio home for Tampa Bay sports talk and Rays postgame shows. Stay tuned throughout baseball season for live coverage after most Rays games with comprehensive coverage of all 162 games from April through October. Got something to say? We'd love to hear it. Give us a call, internationally toll-free. 877-566-1020, or send us a tweet at WHBC Official. Don't go anywhere. Tonight's program will be starting in just a couple of minutes.
HBC. The Rays are now 0-2 in rubber match games this season. It is a good evening to you and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here at 4:32 on this early Sunday evening on this Rays postgame edition of the William Haynes Show. We are live from the WHBC studio in Tallahassee, Florida. The Rays get shut out this afternoon in Tropicana Field, a 1-0 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays. The series going into today obviously was tied 1 game apiece, so the Blue Jays do take the first series of the year. Luis Patino makes his Rays debut, 2 2/3 shutout, and actually no-hit baseball as well. Josh Fleming follows with 4 1/3 of 1 run, and then also of note, Lewis Head at 31 years old. No, it is not Jim Morris, but Lewis Head making his major league debut at age 31, a couple of days after his 31st birthday. And for the offense, what really is there to say? They go 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. They leave a total of 9 men on base. You look at throughout this 3-game series, they only have 2 hits with runners in scoring position, and that came in Game 1. They go 2 for 7 in Game 1, 0 for 6 in Game 2, and 0 for 6 again here today. So if you do the quick math, that would be 2 for 19, and I can just tell you right now that that's not a very good average, and they're at the bottom. I think they're at this point probably 24th or so in the majors as far as batting average with runners in scoring position, and they're in top 5 as far as plate appearances with men in scoring position. So not only are they squandering their opportunities when they get them, but they're getting more opportunities than anyone else, and they still cannot cash in. So it really was the same theme today outside of the 1st and 9th inning. So funny that that the game for the Rays was bookended by 1, 2, 3 innings. They had a base runner in innings 2 through 7 and were never able to do anything with them. They never got a runner to third base, but they had runners obviously at second base a handful of times and were not able to do anything with it. I mean, I'm seeing a runner at second in the 2nd inning, in the 3rd inning, in the 5th inning, and that was it. So in 3 different innings, they had a man at second base, and obviously the pitching does their job. They only give up 1 run, so that was your opportunity. They were within striking distance. They had, at least the tying man coming up to the plate in every spot after that 1 run that the Blue Jays were able to scratch out in the 5th inning, and not necessarily that the Rays were playing bad defensively, but if they were able to just convert maybe a couple more plays, they could have even prevented that. But certainly, by no means am I trying to say that this game is on the pitching or on the defense. It most certainly is not. anytime you get shut out, which this was the first time that the Rays get shut out in Tropicana Field since April 4th of 2019, if you'll recall a game against the Colorado Rockies where they hit a solo home run in the 11th inning and the Rays were not able to put up anything on offense in that game, period. So disappointing to see, not just that they weren't able to prevent the shutout, but that it was 1-0, that's how close the game was. Hyunjin Ryu leaves the game early with, I believe, what they called not a groin strain, but a quad or something. I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was some lower body injury for Hyunjin Ryu, and he only pitches 3 2/3, and he was looking rather sharp throughout that. Had only given up 3 hits and a walk, and was really carving up Rays hitters. You look at the lineup today for Tampa Bay, they strike out a total of 9 times and walk only twice, so that's certainly not good. Guys like Randy Arozarena, who we thought potentially turning the corner. I mean, he's still batting .278, but he goes 0 for 3 today with 3 strikeouts. Brasso with a couple of strikeouts, and Francisco Mejia really for the first time, I think so far, with a couple of strikeouts as well. And they obviously were not able to string anything together. That was something that we saw yesterday, that they had hits all throughout the lineup. Today really was not the case. Kiermaier was the only man who had multiple hits with 2, and then outside of that, it was just Mejia, Margot, and Brasso with 1 hit each, and the rest of the men in the lineup were hitless. That includes, of course, an Austin Meadows 0 for 4 performance where he was squandering some opportunities. He was the only man in the lineup that had multiple at-bats with runners in scoring position, and of course he ends up 0 for 2, and I don't think anyone would be incredibly pleased with what he's putting out there right now. I think with Meadows, that really hot start to the season, the 2 home runs in 2 days, and he's got 4 home runs now through 22 games. We're seeing more 2020 Austin Meadows, I think, than 2019 Meadows. Unless he's getting that pitch down and in, he's really not productive much at all. The pitch is high in the zone, is a lot of pop-outs. He's chasing stuff down and away, outside part of the plate. And obviously big league pitchers, they know how to attack these guys. Same with Arozarena. Even when Randy is getting his pitch, he's still not doing anything with it. I mean, I know that Hyunjin Ryu has been a Cy Young candidate the past 2 seasons, but he was giving him 93-mile-an-hour cutters over the plate, and Randy's just swinging through them. So we've been at this point already this season. Of course, that sweep in Boston, and I think it was what it ended up being a 4-game losing streak, and where the offense just looked really inept. So right now it's obviously just that 1 game size that we're looking at with the shutout tonight, but kind of the same themes where even when guys are getting their pitches, they're just not doing anything with them. Brandon Lau, who has continued his early season struggles, batting all the way down in the 5 spot today, was 0 for 3 with a walk. His average is all the way down at 167. So that's not great either. I mean, the top of the lineup is not, you're not getting nearly as much as you'd like to. Yandy Diaz getting hit in the wrist with a pitch. He stayed in the game, so I'm hoping he's going to be okay, but he's really been, I think, one of the more consistent batters that the Rays have had so far this season. So if he has to miss any time, that would be definitely not a good thing. So that's where we're at right now. So about 10 minutes into the program, we're going to take a short break. We would love to have some of you guys call in and maybe share your thoughts on the Rays. The number to call is 877-566-1020. We're going to take a couple-minute break, maybe allow for some callers to roll in, and if not, when we return, we will just jump right into our discussion of today's 1-0 loss. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Rays postgame on the William Haynes Show. We're live most nights within 15 minutes of the final out to break down everything that happened in that day's game and take listener phone calls to get your thoughts. As always, you call the show at 877-566-1020 or tweet the show at WHBCOfficial. Like you to remember that archives of previous shows can be found on this show's page on Speaker.com and also on the WHBC YouTube channel. We look forward to having some of you on the show. Thanks for calling in.
WHBC. And at 4:41 on this Sunday evening, we return on the William Haynes Show. Number to call the show, 877-566-1020 if you'd like to talk Rays. But without further ado, we will discuss tonight's 1-0 loss at the hands of the Toronto Blue Jays in 3 hours and 13 minutes and in front of a paid attendance of 6,372, the 1-0 loss. For the Blue Jays, it was 1 run on 6 hits, no errors defensively for them. And for the Rays, obviously no runs on 5 hits and no errors defensively for them either. So the Blue Jays, I think one of the big stories of the game was after playing horrendous defense in the first 2 games of the series with 3 errors in Game 1 and 2 in Game 2, they played rather perfect defensively, including taking a couple hits away. There was Joe Panic, I think, taking away a base hit from Wendell that was in the 6th inning, and that was with men on base. So that was a tough break for Tampa Bay in what ended up being a 1-0 final, and they were cashing in the routine plays. I think part of the reason the Rays were able to score some runs, even though they weren't able to capitalize on most of them, was the Blue Jays in the first 2 games of the series had given the Rays extra outs, and whenever you give a big league team a 4th out or even a 5th out in some cases, they're going to end up scoring runs eventually, and the Blue Jays cleaned up their end today, and all they needed was the 1 run to get the job done. It improves Toronto to 10-11 as they finish a lengthy road trip for them, and it drops the Rays back down to 500 at 11-11. We look at the American League East standings right now. It's all bunched up at the moment for the Red Sox, where they win today over the Mariners. They are now 14-9 and 2.5 games above the Rays for first place. The Rays, of course, in second at 11-11, 2.5 games of Boston. Toronto is 3 games back first place. Baltimore with a win today. They just snapped Oakland's 13-game win streak, and the Athletics will come to Tampa Bay and play the Rays for a 4-game series starting tomorrow. So that's something of note, and we'll preview the first game of that series at the end of the program. And the Yankees with the loss today, they dropped to 9-12. So the Orioles and Yankees are tied for last place, but they're only 4 games out of first. So like I was saying, everything right now is pretty bunched up. We were hoping going into the season that the month of April would be a good chance for the Rays to maybe get ahead in the division standings. The first half of it worked out where the rest of the division has not been pulling away, so it's not like you're having ground really to make up right now, of course, with it only being 2.5 games at the moment. And more so the first 3 or so weeks of the season, obviously the series against the Marlins, the Red Sox, we weren't expecting to be a good team. You had a 4-game set against the Rangers. You had the Royals, who haven't been a playoff team in some time, and they were just about around 500 exiting that stage, so had not been able to take advantage. And this last week of April, this homestand was really expected to be kind of the first real challenge of the season, as they were going to have the Blue Jays, Athletics, and the Astros come to Tropicana Field in what we expected to be 3 at least playoff contending teams. And so far they have failed the first of the 3 tests, dropping the series to Toronto in the first meeting of these 2 teams since that 2020 wildcard series where the Rays took the first 2 games of a best-of-3 and advanced to the ALDS, as you'll recall. So getting the win, not that it matters, just the reliever, Tim Meza, he only collected 1 out, and he was probably the worst reliever that the Blue Jays threw out there today, but circumstantial, he gets the win. Getting the loss is Josh Fleming. A tough break certainly for him. He's now 1-2 on the year, 4 1/3 innings of work today, just 1 run allowed, 3 strikeouts, and 2 walks. The 2 walks a little bit uncharacteristic. In his, I think, 5 1/3 in his last time out in Kansas City, did not walk anyone, so his control was a little bit shaky. You could tell he was kind of battling with himself throughout the outing. 71 pitches, 46 for strikes. But he ultimately, I would argue, gets the job done. Work in the bulk innings and you only allow a run. I would consider that a job well done and getting the save. His second of the year and second of the series for Rafael Dolis, a guy that they were able to walk off on in the opening series of 2020, and he really had shut the Rays down. He collected 4 outs in just 6 pitches today, so the Rays not putting up much of a fight in the bottom of the 9th, as I said earlier. The Rays had at least a base runner from the second to seventh inning, or second through the eighth inning, rather, and so they bookended the games with a 1-2-3 inning in the first and the ninth, and it was Kevin Kiermaier making the final out. So the order went through perfectly 4 times through, and no one really, you would argue, with the stand-away performance, save for potentially Kiermaier's 2-for-4 day, which was good to see, and he's really rolling right now offensively, but was not able to come up in spots late in the game, unfortunately. Getting the start for the Rays, which we really haven't mentioned yet, Luis Patino making his Rays debut. He is just 21 years old. He'll turn 22 in October, according to Cut4 on Twitter. This is the first player in Rays history that, I guess at the time of his appearance, is actually younger than the franchise. Of course, the Rays, I guess you would consider them being born, quote-unquote, with their first regular season game being played in late March of 1998. And Luis Patino was born in October of 1999, so that's kind of a strange thing. He's just 21 years old. Did make his major league debut with the Padres last season in limited work. Had not played above single-A ball prior to that, so I think we were all a little bit surprised to see Patino up this early. I thought maybe Shane McClanahan would have been ahead of him a little bit, but with all the arms that they're running through right now, I guess it is in part a matter of circumstance, which was the same for Patino last year for the Padres. He had to call it up just because San Diego just really didn't have anyone to get innings for them. So, but I would say in his Rays debut, Luis Patino certainly was impressive. 2 2/3 innings of no hit balls, so obviously no runs. Walked just one man. It was the leadoff batter, a 9 pitch at bat for Kevin Biggio to lead off the game. So a little bit Blake Snell in Patino's game, at least so far, just with the long at bats and a lot of foul balls and things of that nature. But 3 strikeouts over the 2 2/3, 42 pitches, 30 for strikes in spring training. Kevin Cash was very pleased with his fastball command. I think all in all, that carried true to today's outing. His slider, I think, also looked pretty good, got some good swing and misses. There were some of the sliders that didn't have much bite to it, and I thought that was maybe the changeup, but they were coming up as sliders, and I guess some just have more depth than others, depending on the situation and who he's trying to attack and how. They said he was stretched out to pitch about 4 innings. That's what he was doing at the alternate training site. So we were pondering on last night's show, was it going to be maybe Patino for 1 or 2? Was it going to be Patino and Fleming both 3 innings each? And it ends up being somewhere in the middle, with Patino 2 2/3 and Fleming with 4 1/3. And I think really what we need to start looking at when we're gauging that situation with the opener that maybe goes a little bit longer than just the 1 inning guy. Patino faced the order perfectly a 1 time through, so he just faced the 9 men. And Fleming faced the order 2 times through and faced Kevin Biggio 3 times, and then was pulled right after that because he was able to finish the 7th inning, which I was glad that they did that. There was a similar situation. It was last night with Ryan Yarbrough where it was 2 outs and the bases empty, and it was just because the lineup was turning over that Cash pulled him. And we've seen some issues with the reliever coming out to get the last out of an inning and then really struggled and gave up runs the following inning when he stays in the game. So maybe Kevin Cash changing his philosophy a little bit. Kevin Biggio by no means is an easy hitter to face, so I'm glad that Cash allowed Fleming to challenge him and ultimately got Biggio out in that spot. So they combined for 7 innings of just 1 run, Patino and Fleming. 3 walks and 6 strikeouts between them, and only 4 hits combined over the 7 innings. So I would say this is more of a tandem start than it was an opener. But it was good to see both of them play. I mean, you would argue that this is Fleming's worst outing of the season in his 3 starts so far, but I thought showed some good stuff. Something that we haven't really seen from him. He's had to get out of some jams here today, and he got pretty pumped up at a couple moments. I know there was a big strikeout in the 5th inning. He had already given up the run, but it was the bases loaded with 2 outs, and he was able to strike out Bo Bichette. So that was a pretty impressive moment. So Josh Fleming, a guy that we've heard is kind of a bulldog on the mound, a real competitive type, and today we certainly got to see that competitive fire, and he was able to get out of that spot, which was nice. And then Outside of that, Louis Head making his major league debut. He's 31 years old, turned 31 a couple of days ago. There was the story in the Times that this time last year he was selling solar panels door to door in Arizona. So not quite the Jim Morris story, if you'll recall the 2002 film, The Rookie. A guy that I guess was a teacher and got the call up, I guess, to the big leagues in his 30s. So kind of a similar story there. And Louis Head, I think, looked rather good. I mean, he was getting swing and misses on his slider, had good command of the fastball. When he got called up, Kevin Cash had mentioned one of his best traits potentially is just his ability to pound the strike zone. And with the Rays bullpen that has had some trouble doing that maybe he's going to end up being a good addition. A bit of a head-scratching move in that he was not on the 40-man, so they had to make a 40-man spot for him. I guess you would argue that it's not a big deal because it was just Grione, the catcher that they had claimed off of waivers from the Reds just a couple weeks earlier. So it's not like it was anyone that was a part of this team moving forward. Maybe just someone they were taking a flyer on, and with the catching situation being what it is right now with Zunino and Mejia both playing rather effective and no injuries yet. And they've also got, I think, a couple catchers down at the alternate training site as it was anyway, that they decide to cut bait from him. And they bring up Louis Head. Also, roster moves being made, I guess, last night going into today. Brent Honeywell, after his appearance yesterday, got optioned down to the alternate training site, so he's going to continue to get work there. I think obviously was dazzling in his major league debut. In that Rays home opening series against the Yankees, 2 innings of perfect work. But since then, for Honeywell, just a couple of outings of, I think, both maybe an inning and a third, and he gave up a home run in both of those outings in Kansas City and against Toronto yesterday, and did not respond well to the home run, lost control, it seems, a little bit. So I think the thought process there is that there's maybe some development to be done, or that just Honeywell would benefit from being down there, and that he's not, I guess, necessarily ready to make that major league contribution just yet. I'm much more pleased and high on what maybe Patino can bring to the table rather than Honeywell, and Patino is certainly more stretched out. I don't know what the Rays' plans for Patino is. They activated him off the taxi squad, so they don't have to option him if they don't want to keep him on, I guess, the 26-man, and this isn't counting against Major League service time. I guess if he would be on the rotation in a more permanent fixture, he would have to be I guess on the real active roster and not activated via the taxi squad. So but of course, if they were to do that and then to send him down, they would use one of his minor league options, which I don't think they would love to do. But I think the starting pitching, some of the guys they brought in has been not so good, mainly speaking, of course, of Rich Hill, who will pitch tomorrow, not behind an opener, which I think is a bit of a curious move for the 41-year-old Hill. I mean, I guess that it's the thought is that he's just, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and they don't want to have him deal with pitching behind an opener because he's so used to this routine, I suppose. He's pitched out of the bullpen several times throughout his career, of course, because he's been a big leaguer for about 20 years now. But he'll get the start against what has been a red-hot A's team, and they did get their 13-game winning streak snapped today in Baltimore, so that's not going to be, thankfully, a storyline that we'll have to track over that 4-game set, because if they were coming in winning their previous 14 straight, I mean, that's just not a good spot to be in for anybody, let alone a Rays team that I think is still trying to maybe figure some things out. So that's just the roster moves, and we're not sure at this juncture what the thought is as far as Patino. They can send him, as I said, to the alternate training site with no consequence, as he was activated off the taxi squad, so not like a true member, I guess you would say, of the 26-man. And I think maybe Rich Hill's performance tomorrow would have a great deal to do with that. Chris Archer, it seems, is still a couple weeks away, and that's not like he's just going to be joining the starting rotation and pitching 5 innings. I mean, he's probably going to have to start over, being built back up from 1 or 2 innings to 3 to 4, etc. So he's going to be used as an opener, I would imagine. And Hill, right now, Rich Hill's not getting you through more than about 4 innings, and he's given up runs in that process. He didn't get through more than 6 outs his last time out. He finished with 2+ innings of work in Kansas City his last time. So Patino stretched out to do 4. He threw only 42 pitches today. Maybe they're going to send him back to the alternate training site to give him some more time, mainly just to get stretched out. I would argue that there's not really much more development to be done. I mean, I know we've only seen him the one time, but he was also electric in spring training, and a really good start for him. And his parents were there the first time they've got to see him pitch in the big leagues. They flew from, I believe it was Colombia, to come see him, so it was a bit of a trek for them. So that's a really cool story. And like I said, he's only 21 years old, but looked rather electric. The fastball was up to 97 on occasion, and the slider at about 87 that had some good bite to it at times, and a little bit more shallow depth at other times, which I guess is good that he can vary it from time to time. We'll wrap up the pitching and then talk about the lineup afterwards, because again, the pitching is really all we want to talk about, because it's the only good thing. Patino faced 9 batters, established the first pitch strike to 5 of them. Of course, I mentioned that 9-pitch leadoff at bat for Biggio where he worked the walk, and that was the only thing against Patino. He was perfect the rest of the way. Struck out Bichette, Guerrero, and Grichuk to finish that first inning. So, talk about a punctuation point on that first inning, to allow the base runner, but then completely shut it down. And then a couple of fly balls to center in the second, and got a ground out to Panic, and then a pop out and another fly out to center. So, showed a couple different things, that he can strike out, can pitch to contact as well, more of a fly ball guy, it appears right now. Overall, seems to be, the slider is going to be, down and away to right-handers, and the fastball, he seems to be pitching kind of down and away as well. Did not really see him go up in the zone a whole lot. He did go up and in a couple of times, it looks like, but I guess you would say it was just kind of all over the plate, which was a good thing, giving guys multiple different looks, and did not see any hitter more than one time, obviously. 42 pitches, 30 for strikes. And then Josh Fleming, he faced 19 men, the order 2 times through, and the 1 man 3 times. In those 19 men, he established the first pitch strike to 11 of them, which is not as good as maybe he's looking for. That's a big part of his game, getting ahead of the count early and forcing some weak contact. The ground balls is certainly his forte, and not a whole heck of a lot of that. A lot of fly balls on the outs, if anything, and then the 3 strikeouts mixed in as well. 71 pitches, 46 for strikes, which as well is not as good as you would like to see from Fleming. But as I said earlier, nice to see him really compete and fight and get out of a big spot, limiting the damage to just 1 run in that 5th inning where he gave up back-to-back singles, and then the defense failed to turn a double play multiple times and mix in another single and a walk in there as well. So in an inning where you allow 3 hits and a walk and you only give up 1 run, I think that's pretty crazy as well. The ball being put in play, every time, save for that final strikeout of Bichette to end the inning. So, kind of like Tyler Glasnow, his last couple times out, that, when you get in trouble, how do you respond to it? Some guys fold, but some guys step up to the challenge, and Fleming certainly did that today. So, and another guy, talk about, is he going to find a place in this rotation? Right now, he's the number 3 starter. And he pitched behind, I guess were not really an opener, but pitched in a tandem start today. I would imagine that has more to do with maybe wanting to get Patino time, but I don't know. I think Fleming could have started this game outright, but they decide to go against that. They don't want to have him see the order more than 2 times through. So, as we've been talking about a lot lately, you would rather get those outs in the beginning of a game with a guy who can give you some length, like Patino did, getting the Rays 8 outs today, rather than having to chase it with 1-inning relievers late in the game. We have not seen Castillo since he was on the COVID IL from his, I guess, adverse effects from the vaccine, but he was warming up today. He's been on the active roster the last 2 games. And of course, the Rays didn't have to use Kittredge, Springs, Castillo, or Thompson in this game either, just Lewis Head and Hunter Strickland, and they were able to keep it 1-0. So any way you slice it, you like what the pitching staff threw out. And, of course, I mean, you're not going to shut out this Blue Jays lineup. I know they don't have Teoscar Hernandez and George Springer right now, but I would argue still 1 through 9, they're pretty tough. Maybe not right now. Maybe you would argue like 1 through 6. They're pretty tough, but, I mean, it's still the big boys, the Biggio, Bichette, Guerrero, Grichuk, and Simeon, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Is no slouch there either, with a couple of hits today for him, and what a left field he's played in Tropicana Field this series. So obviously the loss is falling on what the offense was able to produce. So we'll talk about that now. The defensive alignment that Kevin Cash put out there today in the outfield from left to right, it was Randy Arozarena in left, Kiermaier in center, Manuel Margot in right, and then in the infield from third to first, it was Michael Brasso at third, Joey Wendell at shortstop, Brandon Lau at second base, Yandy Diaz at first, Francisco Mejia did the catching, and Austin Meadows was the DH. So not exactly what we expected with the lefty Hyun-Jin Ryu on the mound for Toronto. We expected them to go heavy righty as they had the previous 2 games of the series. Meadows being on the bench, Lau being on the bench, and things like that. But they decide that they want to go more even. I think they had only, I want to say 4 righties, and then you count in the switch hitting Mejia would make it 5. So basically 5 righties, I guess, and 4 lefties. So they go kind of more of an even split. So that would include Yandy Diaz being at first over maybe Setsugo. They get Randy back in the field, which would take out Brett Phillips, and they use the DH on Austin Meadows instead of Rosarena. It seems like they've been going every other day with the catcher, so Mejia gets the start today, and interesting for Patino that him and Mejia were teammates in San Diego last year, and Kevin Cash said that had nothing to do with it, but I think anything to make his Rays debut a little bit easier, you certainly do that, so that was kind of cool. Willy Adames got the day off today against a lefty, which is kind of a head-scratcher. I mean, he's been struggling a bit with the bat. I mean, he goes 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts last night. So maybe Cash was just sick of it or just wanted to give him a day off or what. But Joey Wendell at the shortstop spot didn't give him much better production as he just goes 0 for 4 with a strikeout, and his average continues to plummet. Relatively speaking, of course, it's still at 324, but he was red hot to start the year, and maybe he's going into a bit of a slump. I'm not exactly sure, and what a loss that would be for the Rays if they lose him, because not only has Joey Wendell been hitting out of his mind, but he's been doing it with men on base. He's leading the team with runs batted in with, at this point, I think it's like 13 or 14 RBIs. So no one was hitting today, though, so I mean, how can you blame him? And that's about it. And then the way the lineup was ordered, Yandy Diaz led off again against a lefty, which makes sense. Randy Arozarena 2, Austin Meadows 3, Mike Brasso did the cleanup hitting. Brandon Lau was batting 5th, which is the lowest he's hit in quite some time. Manuel Margot 6th, and then the 7, 8, 9 of Wendell and Mejia and Kiermaier. So again, without having Zunino as the catcher, they don't have to put him in the 9 spot, and they didn't even do that with Zunino yesterday. They put him in the 7 spot, so maybe their philosophy is changing a little bit, and they want the speed in the 9 hole because it was Phillips there yesterday and Kiermaier there today. They moved Joey Wendell to the bottom of the order, which is, I think, just to spark some production there towards the bottom, of course, as he's leading the team in batting average, and the lefty as well, the matchups there. They wanted the righties there at the top with Yandy, Arozarena, and Brasso. 3 of the top 4 hitters were right-handed. Ultimately, I guess you would say that decision didn't pay off, as they were not able to get any runs across against Ryu in his 3 2/3 before he had to leave with the injury. But I think all in all, I like the lineup. I think it's okay. It's just that no one is hitting right now, so it doesn't really make any difference. You're going to have an 0 for 3, 0 for 4, no matter whose name is at the top, it seems like right now. So we'll go 1 through 9 and talk about their performances and where their at-bats came and all that good stuff. And today, obviously, it's not going to be a positive experience. We're going to be more on the negative side of the analysis. For Yandy Diaz today, he goes 0 for 3, no walks, and a strikeout. His average is down to 242, and on base down to 398. So he's right under that 400 mark, but I mean, still getting on base almost 40% of the time is rather insane. To start the game, it was a pop-up to panic, and so in that at-bat, looking at what he did, he saw 4 pitches. It was on a 2-1 count and a fastball that ran him in at the hands, so he just got jammed there. So playing into the hands of Ryu, who none of his pitches come in straight. There's movement on pretty much everything that he throws. So a tough leadoff at bat for Yandy, and the Rays went down 1-2-3 in the first, as I said before. With a runner at first, it was Kiermaier, and 1 out. He struck out looking. In the third, also against Ryu, looking at that at bat, took a fastball, at 88, over the plate. And by the way, let me just say this. The home plate umpire, Raymond DeJesus, another rough umpire calling balls and strikes today. I don't know what's going on with that, but we're getting to the point. It's been almost a week and a half, 2 weeks, since we've had a decently umpired game behind home plate. And I know it's in part because we've had the same crew for a little while. This crew was with the Rays in Kansas City and came down, and I guess unless they go to Dunedin with the Blue Jays, that they would be with us maybe for the rest of the homestand. I don't exactly know. We'll find that out tomorrow. But just questionable calls, because DeJesus is known for having a wide zone, but there was called strikes out the wazoo when the Rays were at bat. And I honestly give credit to the Rays, and that was in part of their struggles and part of their 9 strikeouts, that quite a bit of them, they went down looking, because pitches that maybe they should be taking, and DeJesus is calling strikes, and then at other times pitches that are like in the zone and he's calling balls. So there was just no consistency. That's the thing that I always have a problem with. If the scouting report on Raymond DeJesus is that, he's got a really wide zone, and even if it's below the knees or it's a ball or so off the plate, he's going to call it a strike. Well, at least going into the at-bat, that's going to be the case. But, when sometimes it shrinks, sometimes it's bigger, you don't know exactly what it is. And then as a hitter, you have to alter your definition of the strike zone to fit the umpire. That's a difficult dynamic to work with, and it made it just all that more difficult for the offense today. So Yandy took a fastball in that at bat, as I said, in the third, with a man on and 1 out. And Kiermaier at first thought maybe he'd steal, but he didn't. And then takes a cutter up and in, which would love to see right-handers take more of those pitches up and in, because it seems like they're chasing those way too much right now. Fouls off a changeup off the plate, and I guess he just thought he had to swing at it. And then on 1 and 2, took a cutter kind of down and away, and it was close, and DeJesus rung him up there. Then in the 5th inning, with runners at second and third and nobody out, I hate to keep interrupting myself. I guess I should have covered this before I went into the 1 through 9 hitters and how they did. But talk about the moment of the game. Offensively, throughout a baseball game, even when you're not hitting, you're going to get at least one opportunity, one legitimate chance to put up runs. And that came in the 5th inning, the bottom frame of that inning. So in the top frame, they gave up the 1 run. So this was their response. It was the single for Mejia and the single for Kiermaier. Your 8 and 9 hitters get on first and second with nobody else, with the top of your order coming up. And they go down 1, 2, 3. The Yandy fly out to right, the Arozarena strikeout, and the Austin Meadows weak ground ball to first base. And so they really didn't have anything the rest of the way. A couple of hit by pitches and a walk, and that was it the rest of the way. So talk about squandered opportunity. So I'll do that 5th inning. We'll do that wholesale right now. So Mejia and Kiermaier singled, just off of Mejia a slider across the plate, and Kiermaier got a fastball across the plate. So first and second, nobody outs. And then they make a pitching change. Tyler Chatwood comes in. Yandy takes a fastball low for ball one, then takes a cutter kind of down and in for strike one. DeJesus calls it a strike, and then on a 1-1 count, another cutter up and in, and he lined out on it. So did put a decent ride on it, but was not able to get it down for a base hit. And a single would have scored a run, and it would have tied the game there. Then Arozarena in a 6-pitch at bat struck out swinging. Took a cutter up and away for strike one, so another taken strike. Then takes kind of that same pitch for ball one, 1 strike. Then swings through a sinker up and away, so Chatwood was working him away that whole at bat. Then takes a couple of pitches well outside, so he works himself into a full count. And then on a 3-2, 88 miles an hour, middle, and he just swings right through the pitch. Strike three called. So that was disappointing to see. I think if you look for the most micro moment possible, because of course at bottom of the fifth was the Rays' chance. That 3-2 pitch to Arozarena was the chance. I mean, those are the pitches in October last year he was putting into the outfield seats for home runs. So that's to me, that's defined Arozarena's year so far. I mean, he's batting .278 and has looked good at times. He's got 3 home runs on the year. But he's swinging through fastballs, and he's chasing all kinds of stuff all over the zone and outside of it. So that was a tough spot for him. And then Meadows comes up with 2 outs and then gets kind of a pitch middle, and grounds out on it because of, I guess, that middle just isn't his pitch right now, more so down and in. So just kind of rolled over on it for out number 3. And then now back to Yandy Diaz. He got hit by that pitch in the 7th inning. Kind of hit him in the watch area on the wrist, and he was really kind of dealing with some pain. The trainer came out and put some pressure on it, and he was definitely dealing with a good amount of pain, but stayed in the game. We haven't gotten any updates yet. It was just a cutter that ran up and into him. So from David Phelps, and Hunter Strickland hit a batter later in the game, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. I hope that the last thing we need is like a Rays Blue Jays like rivalry like we have with the Yankees, where it's just like beanball. So 2 Rays batters were hit by pitches today. It was Brasso in the 6th and Yandy in the 7th, but I can't imagine that there would be any like animosity between these two teams. But what do I know? Maybe the guys are just pissed off with losing baseballs in the trop, in the roof there. Who's to say? And so that was Yandy's day. He finishes 0 for 3 with the hit by pitch, and squandered a big opportunity with a couple of base runners on. Batting in the 2 spot of Arozarena, he goes 0 for 3 with the walk and the 3 strikeouts, with the average, as I said, down to .278. An on base of .337, so he's not walking a whole heck of a lot, and is slugging a .430. So he's still slugging a pretty great deal. So when he's getting hits, a lot of extra bases, which is a good thing to see with the doubles and the home runs. He struck out in the 1st inning against Ryu, and I want to look at his at bats. It was a 2-2 count, and he was swinging through all kinds of stuff. Got a 91 mile an hour 4-seam, kind of middle up. And he's had trouble with elevated fastballs. He can rake down in the zone and kind of hit middle pitches sometimes, but when you put any kind of elevation on it, he's swinging under it a lot. So I don't know if he's trying to get a charge on the baseball. With how hard he hits the ball, I would like to just see him hit the top half of the ball and just hit hard ground balls, but that's definitely not what we're seeing right now. And that was in a 1-2-3 inning. In the 1st, he walked in the 3rd with a man on, so that was a good spot for him. And another at bat against Ryu. Started off 3-0. Ryu just kind of lost the zone a little bit. Then he took 2 strikes, and they were both like borderline. So he probably should have. He did walk in the at bat, but should have earlier. Got to a 3-2 count, and he takes a fastball in, like middle in. So that was a good take for sure. So I guess it's not all bad for Randy. That strikeout, as we talked about in the 5th inning, where he just swung through a pitch in the middle of the plate. And then with a man on first in the 7th, he struck out swinging as well. That was after the Yandy hit by pitch against David Phelps. Swung through a cutter middle part of the plate, then took a pitch outside, then on a 1-1 fouled off a fastball high and away, and then chased a curveball down and away. So was just getting kind of ran around by Phelps there in that spot, and so he finishes 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. Austin Meadows 0 for 4 today, no walks, no strikeouts, an average that is now down to 233. He's getting on base a 367 clip and a slugging percentage that's high as well, at 466. I mean, with the 4 home runs, yes, some doubles, yes, but it does not seem like a big extra base guy right now. But maybe, I mean, he's tied for the team lead in home runs, so I guess that's what makes the numbers stand out at this time. 3 flyouts actually, 2 to center, 1 for right, and that weak grounder to first. So he's making contact right now. We'll look at the final pitches of all those at bats to see kind of what he was hitting on. So in the first at bat, the flyout to right, it was an 83 mile an hour cutter that ran middle into him, and so he pulled the baseball as you would expect, running into the lefty, and was not able to hit it out because I guess on that pitch, I guess that's what he's trying to do there. Then in the third inning with a couple of men on, that was one of the big chances. They had runners at first and second twice this game, and for the final out of that third inning, a line out to center on a 2-1 count. It was a fastball, kind of middle away, and I guess it's just he's making contact. I guess just not like home run contact, because I guess on those pitches that's what he's trying to do, and he's just I guess falling right now a little bit short. And then in the fifth inning with runners at first and second and 2 outs, the first pitch, kind of a sinker middle, and just rolls over on it, a weak ground ball to first base. And then to start the eighth inning, a fly out to center. And in that situation, it was a 1-2 count and got a fastball kind of up and away. And that's definitely not his pitch either. And so he lines out on it, though. And so that was his day. He goes 0 for 4, but putting the ball in play all 4 times. Batting cleanup, Mike Brasso. Today, Mikey was 1 for 3, no walks and 2 strikeouts. An average that's up to 222, as maybe he's coming out of a bit of a slump. Was also hit by a pitch as well. So reached base a couple of times, and on base at 300, and a slugging of 422. I guess I guess that's not a terrific slugging percentage, but it's just no one on the Rays has a great percentage outside of maybe Joey Wendell with the 549. So everyone in comparison, I guess, just looks good. My perception of what's a good slugging or OPS is a bit out of whack watching this team right now. He hit a leadoff single in the second inning, which was good to see. Then struck out looking in the fourth. Got hit by a pitch to start the sixth. So his first 3 at-bats, he was starting the inning, which is not, I guess, typical of a cleanup hitter. So he was not coming up by any means in cleanup situations, and then struck out for the second out of the eighth. And, I thought he looked fine. He got a hit, so he'll I guess, continue to hit cleanup against lefties is what I would imagine, and we're going to see 3 more in the first 3 games in the Oakland series, starting with Sean Manaea tomorrow. Brandon Lau batting in the 5 spot. He goes 0 for 3 today with a walk. That walk came in the 8th inning, and obviously they're not able to bring him around. Grounded out with a man on first, flew out to left with nobody on and 1 out in the 4th, and then ran out a double play ball in the 6th inning. So a fielder's choice and prevented the double play there. So not an incredibly productive day for Lau. His average right now is down to 167. He's getting on base, though, about 30% of the time. So he's getting walked a ton, including 1 today. But I guess you would argue is maybe the most underwhelming race hitter on the team right now. And considering he's supposed to be kind of your everyday cleanup hitter, that's a bit disheartening right now. I think expectations for him were pretty high going into the year. He played at an MVP type level in the regular season in 2020, and then fell into one of the worst slumps of his career in the playoffs, which talk about a bad time to go into a slump, but that was the case for Brandon last year. And so he'll continue to get playing time, maybe not as much, within the next 3 games because of the lefties, but I mean, it's good that he's healthy and good that he's playing a good second base right now as well. Manuel Margot batting in the 6th spot, and what a good game defensively he has, he had today. Margot goes 1 for 4, no walks, no strikeouts, an average that's up to 231 and on base at 292. Grounded out with a man on first, in and out in the second. Hit a 2-out single in the fourth. Ran out a double play ball right after Brandon Lau's fielder's choice in the sixth. So back-to-back where they're running out double plays. So not good contact made at all most of the game. And then grounded out with a man on first in the eighth inning, and that was his day. Offensively, at least. But defensively was incredible. He made a feet first sliding catch in right where I guess he got blinded by the lights, and his eyes were closed and his head was turned, and he just stuck the glove out there and got it. Maybe you want to call it dumb luck, but to me, that's not a coincidence that he kept putting himself in the right situation, even if his eyes were closed and his head was turned from the play, which is definitely not textbook. And then I think had another couple plays running and right where he just wasn't even looking at the ball and still got it in the mitt. So a center fielder to have in right, he was not comfortable in the corners in 2020 in spring training or in the regular season, really, save for maybe a couple moments in October. But I think has really taken to the corners here because with Kiermaier, of course, he's not going to be playing a lot of center. But he is a terrific defensive player and has been pretty good offensively this year and goes 1 for 4 today. Joey Wendell, a bit of an underwhelming performance considering what he's been doing, but did play a good shortstop, alleviating, I suppose, Willie Adames today. I don't exactly understand that move, but it was made. Wendell goes 0 for 4, no walks, and a strikeout. His average down to 324 and on base at 347, and he's leading the team in slugging percentage at 549. Grounded out with a man on second in the second for the final out, or rather, no, struck out for the final out with the runner at second base. Then flew out to left with a man on first, grounded out with a man on first, and flew out to left to start the ninth inning. So in that second inning against Shinji and Ryu with the runner at second base in 2 outs, because that was, of course, his most consequential at-bat. Started off 0-2, took 2 fastballs looking, so you can't do that to put yourself in a hole. Takes a changeup down and away, and then gets the same pitch again and just chases it. So that's always frustrating. He takes it the first time and a little more enticing the second time, but pretty much the same pitch, and he chases it. A single would have scored a run and given the team a lead, but was not in the cards, I guess, today. And that's about it to say for him, and did play good at shortstop. He seems to always do that. Francisco Mejia, 1 for 4, no walks, 2 strikeouts, an average that's down to 282, and on base at 310. So he's continuing to really produce at the catcher spot. Struck out to start the third inning, hit a leadoff single in the fifth, struck out looking in the seventh, and popped out for one of the outs in the 1-2-3 ninth inning. And so was a good catcher today. It seems like they're going to flip-flop between him and Zunino, which that might be a good idea to not with the wear and tear on a catcher's body throughout a season. If they don't have to play 2 days in a row, that would be kind of cool. I think part of that is the day game after the night game as well. So typically catchers won't do that. So allowed them to have Mejia today, and they like him more so from the right side as the switch hitter, but obviously can come to the plate from both sides. But against the left-handed starter today, they were able to see him primarily from the right side, and batting ninth, maybe the best offensive and defensive player, because he was making some running and jumping catches in center, and was the only guy to have multiple hits in the order. Kiermaier goes 2 for 4 today, an average that's up to 270, and on base at 289, and a slugging of 297. So is pretty much just a singles player. Is not walking, is not hitting doubles or home runs. So he's either making outs or he is hitting singles. So kind of a 2 outcome player, or 3 maybe, whatever you want to say, fly out, strikeout, or single for him. But I say that in jest, of course, because I mean, how can you complain with a 2 for 4 when your team gets shut out? And he was in the 9 spot as well, which I think is a nice little place for him. He hit a 1-out single with nobody on in the third, and moved over to second base with a walk in that inning as well. He was part of that back-to-back singles in the fifth, grounded out with nobody on in the seventh and 1 out, and grounded out to second base for the final out of the game. A lot of grounders to Joe Panik today. And it was just kind of disappointing to see that, just the weak ground ball to the same place, and Joe Panic was cashing those routine plays in for outs, which is something the Blue Jays have not been able to do really at all this series going into today. The offense as a whole goes 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Meadows was 0 for 2, and Wendell, Diaz, Margot, and Arozarena were all 0 for 1, and they leave a total of 9 men on base. As I said earlier, they go, I believe I said 2 for 19 with runners in scoring position on the series, which is very disappointing, and they are squandering those opportunities more than anyone in baseball right now. But good appearances for both Patino and Fleming, and congratulations to Lewis Head. He and his wife and his young child took a picture at the mound yesterday because I guess he was anticipating making his major league debut, and a terrific story, and he looked good today for sure. And Hunter Strickland giving up a couple hits but getting out of a jam and keeping the game scoreless going into the bottom of the ninth. So that's about it. That's all we have to say. It doesn't look like we've got any notes from Mark Tompkin right now, so we will now preview tomorrow's contest against the Oakland A's. The Athletics were riding a 13-game win streak that was put to a halt today in Baltimore. So they are now 14-8, 6-2 on the road so far this season. This is their first East Coast trip of the year. The Rays are 11-10. And then also Oakland, they have a 1-game lead in the American League West, so they are a division leader. The second of those, I guess really you would count that the Rays have played this season, along with Kansas City. Looking at their roster, the pitchers that we're going to face in this series, it looks like it will be Minaya in Game 1, Frankie Montas in Game 2, a guy that we haven't seen a lot of, Cole Irvin, a lefty, and then in the finale it looks like it'll be Chris Bassett, who has looked pretty good so far this year as well. So we're getting kind of their better starters, if you will. Their bullpen right now, they've got guys. Lou Trevino, their closer. They've got Jake Diekman as well. Yusmeiro Petit, who we've seen a good bit of. Former Rays, Adam Kolarek, and Sergio Romo as well. So they're kind of cool to see those familiar faces, including Sergio Romo, who's still kicking it. How old is he now? He is 38 years old, so that'll be cool to see Romo and Kolarek for sure. The first time that we've seen the Oakland Athletics since the 2019 wildcard round, which, of course, no Rays fan will ever forget. It was my first real playoff game as a Rays fan, and what a night to remember. Yanni Diaz, of course, leading the game off with a home run. Avi Garcia with a home run. Pham with a home run. Really cool to see. So hopefully, especially tomorrow against Sean Manaea, who was the starter in that wildcard game, Yanni has got to be in the lineup, including leadoff is where I would put him too. Maybe get his home run back going a little bit. And the lineup for Oakland is pretty good as well. Going into the year, it didn't look incredibly dynamic, but some guys have really stepped up. I mean, Sean Murphy, the catcher, they've got those infield cornerstones of Matt Olson at first and Chapman at third. Jed Lowry has had a career resurgence at second base for them, and he's batting like .290 right now. Ramon Laureano in center field is hitting home runs out of his mind. It seems like he's got one like almost every day. Let's see how many he's got on the season. ESPN is saying he's got 3 home runs, but that cannot be right. It seems like he's been hitting all kinds of homers, but is off to a nice start as well. And then Mitch Moreland, the DH, has been impressive. So it's one of those 1 through 9 that is going to be kind of tough. I mean, there's a couple of easy outs, maybe Elvis Andrus, Mark Cana, Chad Pinder on a given day, whatever. But a lineup that's going to challenge you. The Rays, historically, in the regular season, have struggled against Oakland. And it seems like we always play them at least one series early in the season, and we're going to play them on the road next month in May, so we'll be done with them by the month of May. But they'll be coming to town starting tomorrow. Game 1 of the series, 7:10 tomorrow. It'll be the lefty Sean Manaea against another lefty in Rich Hill. We'll start on the Rays side of things. Rich Hill, the 41-year-old left-hander, is 1-0 on the season with an .882 earned run average. So he's, per 9 innings, he's giving up basically 1 run per inning, which is not good. So basically, if he gives you a 4-inning start, he's going to give up 4 runs, and that's not really getting you anywhere. His last time out against the Kansas City Royals went 2+ innings pitched, 4 runs on 4 hits, left a man on second base as well, a walk and a strikeout. That was the only start, surprisingly, that he didn't give up a home run. He has given up 4 home runs in 4 starts this year, so it seems like he's probably will be due for one of those tomorrow. And Oakland, I think, has been hitting a good amount of home runs so far this year. No really start where he's looked good. He's given up exactly 4 runs in all of his starts, 4 innings, 6 innings, 4 1/3, and 2+. All 4 innings, or all 4 runs allowed in each of those. So I would imagine probably more the same. My prediction, if he's not going to pitch behind an opener, is that he will maybe give them, if they're lucky, 4 innings of about 4 runs. And I don't mean to be kind of a Rich Hill hater, but I don't like what I'm seeing right now. I just don't think he's the same player anymore. I understand what he provides to the clubhouse, and he's a very conscientious guy and very thoughtful if you listen to some of his interviews. But, I mean, he's just not getting people out right now, which is really your number one job as a starting pitcher in the bigs. It's a good thing they saved their bullpen tomorrow because they're probably going to need it. It doesn't look like on the roster they really have anyone who can pitch length. Trevor Richards may be the only one that could do so, but of course Mazza on the IL, Cody Reed on the IL. So let's say Rich Hill ends up getting you 4 innings. Maybe you could go Richards for 1 or 2 if you want, but they've got all the 1-inning guys: Thompson, Springs, Castillo, and Andrew Kittredge. So those could all get you 4. For those 4 guys could get you 1 inning each. So maybe Hill gets you 4. Those guys get you 4. Maybe you stretch 1 or 2 of those guys for a second inning, and that's where you pick up those last 3 outs. But of course, nothing ever goes exactly how you plan it to go. And then on the Oakland A's side, it will be Sean Manaea. The 29-year-old left-hander is 2-1 on the year with a 3.08 earned run average. He has been dynamic, absolutely electric this season. His last time out, he pitched a complete game shutout in a 7-inning doubleheader game. Went 7 innings, obviously no runs on 6 hits, a walk, 7 strikeouts, only 95 pitches. He's also got a couple of 6-inning starts. One of 2 runs against the Tigers, and another of 6 innings, 1 run against the Astros. Looking at his 2019 against his game against the Rays and the wild card start, 2 innings, 4 runs on 4 hits was the last time that he's seen Tampa Bay, and hopefully we'll see something like that tomorrow in what will be an American League 2019 wild card rematch. So that will be kind of fun, but Manaea is no slouch, and he's kind of returned to form as one of the A's kind of top starters. Heavy right-handed lineup again. I mean, I would imagine. I don't. It's going to be tough to keep Biondi at there at first base, especially with the wrist. So maybe they go Mike Brasso at first, and I don't think he started there this year because I don't think you get Yoshi in right now. If I'm being totally honest. So the lineup, I would go, we'll do outfield first. Randy in left, Kiermaier in center, probably Margot in right, or if they want to use the DH on someone other than Meadows, it would be Meadows in right. But we'll say they don't even need Meadows in the lineup entirely tomorrow. So let's say maybe they go with Margot in right, so maybe they get a DH, a righty. And so in the infield from third to first, I would go Wendell at third, Adames at shortstop. I would go Lau maybe at second, Brasso at first, Zanino to catch, and then you would put the DH. You could DH Mejia. If you want to switch guy, you could DH Yandy, so he doesn't have to play defense. It can just bat. Or you could DH Yoshi or Meadows if you want to get him in the order. And so that's how that would look. If that's the way they choose to do things. So we will be on the air after tomorrow's game. So it's a 7:10 start, getting back kind of to normal. So we'll be on probably, somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock Eastern. Be sure to follow at WHBC Official on Twitter. The link to our show goes out live immediately on there, so you don't have to wait to find the link on Reddit or on Discord or wherever you're currently finding the show. Also, where you're listening to this on Spreaker.com, I know you have to make an account, but just go ahead if you want to do that. You can subscribe to the show and get us there as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the program today. And as always, we will talk to you tomorrow night.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.
W